All right. Why can't we let professionals be professionals in the arena of law enforcement? That has been such a challenge and a problem and an obstacle, I think, between media criticism, oversight committees, micromanaging, politicians, uh, law- lawyers, lawsuits. All seem to be that law enforcement, the norm is for us to always be under the microscope, and we're not letting law enforcement be professionals. And today, I'm so pleased we got a great guest, Captain Kory Flowers, 26-year veteran with the Greensboro, North Carolina PD, trains law enforcement trains law enforcement officers nationwide on a wide variety of topics. Kory's especially subversive criminal groups, leadership, tactical communications, as well as tactical operations from the SWAT perspective. Dude has published written articles, conducted interviews and podcasts for the likes of Police Magazine, Los Angeles Times, Southern Poverty Law Center, National Public Radio. One of my favorite things about him, he's a frequent guest on Street Cops podcast and guest television host on Patrol Live. He's also the co-founder of Runwell, and Kory, I really want to touch on that mentoring and coaching program for high school young men.
Great.
Kory, welcome, brother. It's really odd how in our careers we actually served different departments for some of the same police executives, and with respect to particularly one, Mitch Davis, for both of us, that guy was a model of what we wanted to be as we progressed up the ranks in our agencies. So we kind of got that same foundation underneath us, and I'm glad to have you here. And I want to get to the Runwell story in a minute. Fascinating story with
Sure.
one of the guys that used to be a cop and then left and came back. But I want to kind of set the tone for our chat today is how over your 26-year career and my 20, and then I had my 26, 27-year career as well. What were some of the hardest adjustments you've had to make in your policing philosophy
Yeah.
because of all these outside influences
Yeah.
that we seemingly had no control over?
Yeah, it's interesting, Pat. So I tell the young folks I started in the police academy in the 1900s. Okay, so I started in '99, but I get to say that, and when I say that, they look at me like I've got three eyes. But thinking about this question, the interesting thing is my philosophy. I started policing literally with the same mindset that I had when I was about 9 years old, which was I want to take bad guys to jail. That's not like the most popular answer these days. Most of the time, hiring boards want to hear, I want to serve the community and help the community. And I value that. And I'm grateful we do that. But I think a lot of folks get into this profession because there is evil in the world. There is crime afoot. And I at 9 and I at 22 and I today at 48 like taking bad guys to jail.
Yeah.
I love it to this moment. So the problem is this, though. I started in '99, and that was my ethos and mantra, and that's what I really enjoy doing. And I found that I have a gift for it in certain ways. But then back then, overall public perception of law enforcement was overall positive. A lot of perks to the job. Everywhere you went, folks want to pat you on the back and buy you lunch, and you could wear you wear your uniform proudly to your kid's career day, and with no reservations.
Hmm.
Fast forward to particularly 2014 to 2020, when the world went nuts, and this, the a lot of times ignorant criticism, vile vitriol that we take as our profession, is that it's been tough. That was a tough change, particularly with a guy like me that I don't have any upward mobility plans. I just like policing. I like taking bad guys to jail. My career's been heavy in the tactical side always. I've never gotten into a lot of the administrative side that just doesn't hold my attention. So policing in the early 2000s versus in the late 2018, 2020 period, that's a real challenge to to try to stay the course, right? Because what we see, particularly if you're like, some of the young generations, I don't do social media at all. I have no social media footprint, but the young folks, that's their medium.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're a 22-year-old coming into the profession now, or particularly go back to 2020. And what you'll see is, if you take what you see in social media as reality and you assume that's real, like that's what the bulk of people think, is that, they consider you probably racist, probably overusing force, probably just prone to make bad decisions. If you digest that, it's tough coming to work every day. So that's been a real challenge. And I think the other side of this is, and I'm not going to denigrate the young folks too much, because I see so much shining light in the young folks coming up. But what I do see as a generational problem, or challenge, we'll say, is these young folks coming up and wanting to be given everything. When I came up, you didn't mention the idea of an upward transfer to a specialized unit for 5-6 years on the street.
Yeah.
Now a lot of these young folks, they're like, hey, look, I've been working here 6 weeks. I'm applying everywhere. I'm going to apply to vice and street crimes. And it's like, slow down, pal. Like, this is an art. This is not a science. You have to learn the art. So those two, Pat, when I think about that question, those two have been challenging for me.
Yeah. And in a lot of my writings, in the name of the podcast, a warrior servant leader mindset. And for us old timers, in a way, if you want to call us that, and I'm like way older than you, I didn't become a cop till I was 28.
Yeah.
I mean, I was an attorney. I was a district attorney who became a police officer. So I had a different perspective, and a different level, and again, not knocking anybody, but the maturity level of someone that's 28, 29, 30 years old compared to a 21-year-old is, quite frankly, in most cases, light years different.
Yes.
But in law enforcement, we have been so adaptable to and accepting the warrior mindset.
Yes.
And we have street survival and like Dave Grossman, a friend of mine, bulletproof mind, all that kind of stuff. And we really grasp that.
Yes.
But at the same time, we also grasp the reality. This was my definition of law enforcement: long in patrol.
Yeah.
Long periods of extreme boredom interrupted by moments of sheer terror.
Yeah, it can be. That's right.
Yeah, especially on midnights, and I was a midnight rat for 13 years.
Yep.
And so, everybody thinks it's Miami Vice and Hill Street Blues and Blue Bloods and this, that, and the other thing, and it's all running and gunning and whatnot, and it's not. And the vast majority of the time, we're doing more of those servant leader things of, nobody calls us to say, hey, I'm having a really good day. Would you have an officer stop by so I can share that with them?
That's right. Just checking in. That's right. Just say, I love you guys.
And no, we're problem solvers, and how you do it, and I talk that upward mobility. I remember the first time it was my first fight, but it was the first time I got hurt really good, and I broke my pinky finger.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to go to the hospital, and the doctor was the ER doctor was the brother of a homicide detective on our department. So he loved the police. I said, Doc, don't write it up as a break, because if you do, I'm going to get desk duty.
That's right.
Yeah. And so, and I lied to him. I said, I'm going on my 4 days off. Can you just tape these two fingers together? And it wasn't my gun hand. It was my off hand. And I go, man, if I can't do my job, I'll tell the sergeant, and I'll do the workers' comp routine and do all that. And so he did. That's how he wrote it up. He taped my fingers together, got out in the cruiser. First thing I did, take the tape off, walked into the district headquarters, and the sergeant goes, what's the word? I go, and I do, I hold my hand up like this, and I go, my finger's fine.
Everything's good.
He goes, then start typing. You got paperwork to do. And that's, that was our philosophy.
Yeah.
But there was dangers to that. And I'm sure you've seen it in yours, that suck it up buttercup is then we sucked up everything.
That's right.
And what's the suicide rate now amongst officers?
No, you're right. And it's a challenge. And so this job necessarily, the folks that come into this work, who are truly called into this work, they can carry a heavy load. Like I've said that for years. Yeah. Are times dark? Yeah. Are times violent? Surely are. Are politicians and social media like unreasonable? Yes. However, thankfully, mercifully, for all of America, the young men and women that are coming into this profession for the proper reasons can bear the heavy load. That being said, you do have to be aware that it's a heavy load. I remember, even just a couple years ago, I was a lieutenant, a watch commander. We were talking about this earlier. So our agency has about 650 cops, pretty busy town. And on watch command, I stayed involved and would go to a lot, anything that's interesting or needed help, I'd go help out. But I started keeping up over it was a 10-month period at one point. I kept up with how many dead bodies I physically looked at in the same room. And it was 91. I looked at 91 dead human beings gone from the earth, from old lady circle of life, normal deaths, to suicides, babies, young people dead, homicides of young men. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was at dinner with my family, my wife and all of our kids. And after dinner, she said, "Kory, I think you need to be aware of how flippantly you speak about death." And my wife and I speak in that manner. She's very direct, and that was helpful. And I did not realize that, that kind of impact is something that, I'm not in a puddle on the floor. And I think I'm built in a certain way, like you are, Pat, like most cops, where we can digest those things, but it still has to have an impact. And I remember speaking to hanging out with a couple of my non-cop friends, and architects, realtors, and I said, how many dead bodies have you guys ever seen in your life, like outside of a funeral home? And they both said, well, none. That would be nuts. And I said, well, that's interesting, because I've seen 91 this year. Yeah. And so it's good to be aware of those things, and to, like Aristotle famously said, know thyself. Like, you need to pay attention to the effect of those things on you in this profession.
That's absolutely true. One July 4th, I was the watch commander. I had 4 separate murders.
Wow.
Unrelated to each other in one 12-hour shift. Right. And you're just boom, 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 and you get myopic almost. Yes. But then if we don't have a healthy outlet for digesting and processing that, and not just bottling it up.
That's right.
And so for many cops, more cops now than in the past, are coming into the profession with a very strong faith-based foundation. Yeah. And that's a good thing. Yeah. And they can still take care of business when you have to take care of business. Yes. That, there is some truth to the adage, I'd rather be, tried by 12 than carried by 6. Sure. And sometimes, we have to revert to using deadly force and taking somebody's life, but it's justified. That's right. And then we have to have a healthy outlet for processing that. That's right. As you teach across the country, I mean, you're talking Greensboro. I was in Dayton, Ohio. We were very similar in crime rates and all that. I quit counting how many homicides I'd been on, and between patrol and homicide worked for me for 3 years. I was the commander over all investigations and stuff. I think I'm somewhere in the arena of over 300. And you just, I can tell you vividly my first one. You'll always remember in detail your first one. Mine was a murder-suicide. But then after that, you just, it becomes, I don't want to say natural, but if you over-empathize with the tragedy,
Yeah.
that's going to eat you alive.
Yeah, and you become ineffective, and actually, you could become counterproductive to the mission, which is
Right.
the goal is the mission, and you are at the bottom if you're doing this thing properly. So the mission, your people, and then you're at the bottom. But you have to care for the mission. Like I've said before. Thankfully, mercifully, everybody's built differently, right? Here's a good example. My sister is a nurse. For years, she delivered babies. Now, I respect that to the utmost. And she was great at it and she was built for it. And if it was up to me to deliver all the babies in the world, the human race would just cease to exist because I could not do that job. I would be horizontal, passed out all day. However, she was excellent at it. And the point being, we're all built for different things. So thankfully for the world and for the fabric of society, there are young men and women who can come into a profession like this and do it properly, do it well, and do it with excellence. Thankfully.
And and that kind of then begs the next question or progression of this. How do we recruit those folks that are built for it, but that also have the capacity for emotional intelligence and compassion and a regulated empathy. I did an episode a little while ago of empathy versus compassion, and I'll always go with compassion.
Yeah.
But how do we recruit and develop and retain those folks, and at the same time, because we're notoriously bad about, I don't want to say taking credit, but we do so many great things,
Yeah.
and that the media never picks up on.
Right.
I'm going to share a real quick story about that. Is after I retired, but then when we do recognize someone for just incredible, outstanding work, what's every cop say?
Oh yeah.
I was just doing my job.
I just got the call. I
Yeah,
instinct. That's right.
Yeah, and no, you're doing more than that.
Yes.
And here's, I call them Paul Harvey moments. We as cops, we very rarely get to hear the rest of the story of how we positively impacted somebody's life on a call for service. And we're not hearing it. The media is not hearing it. And for every bad story or tragic event involving law enforcement, there's 10,000 events that happen that very same day that you'll never hear about. So how do we leverage getting the folks that are built for it, identifying those folks, training them up, retaining them, and at the same time build community relationships that we're not the bad guys?
Yeah. This is an age-old question. If I had the answer to this, I'd be a triple PhD and just everybody would hire me. So I'll give my 2 cents, but I feel passionately about what I'm getting ready to say. So, and I've been in arguments about this same point for years. At present, if you go online and you pick any decent size agency and you look at their recruiting stuff, you are going to see people dancing. You are going to see hot dog cookouts. You're going to see the trauma poodle. Well, I mean, you see all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Water gun fights with and all that is sweet. Like I get it. That's fine. However, those are not, the kind of people that respond to that kind of like advertising is probably not who we want to recruit. I think in my estimation, here's the best example. The United States Marine Corps has forever and ever effectively had, basically zero vacancies. They hit their recruiting standards every single year forever. And I think why it is because they unashamedly, unabashedly recruit, and all of their recruiting is directed at the kind of people they want to get. They spend 0 seconds considering who it may offend, who may not respond. Like we do that a lot. A lot of times we're like, oh, we can't push out this recruiting ad because it might offend somebody. Well, that's not who we're trying. If you're offended by a post online, you certainly are not the person we're trying to hire here. We need unoffendable people. So if we spent more of our time similar to the Marine Corps, and I'm not saying the combat mission, but saying who do we want? And then you seek those people intently with zero regard for who may not respond or who may be offended, you would probably get less folks coming in, but they'd be the right people.
Right.
A lot of times folks say, people are the most important resource, and that is wholeheartedly incorrect. The right people are the most important resource. So you spend the time and effort to get the right people, you'll have less lawsuits down the line. You'll have less officer injuries, bad decisions, IA nonsense. Take the time, choose less people, and choose the right people. And it's tough though, because everybody's trying to fill numbers. I get that. We got vacancies and we got to fill up, and we just need human beings to complete this police academy. I'm like, well, you always reap what you sow. Be wise what you're asking for. If I was in charge of the world, that's how I'd run it.
You reap what you sow is right there with, and I'm a big advocate of this, is whatever you're looking for, you'll always find more of it.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're looking for the worst in somebody, you'll find more reasons to not like them and how bad they are. But if you're looking for the best in a situation, no matter how tragic it is, you'll find more of that.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of our dilemma, is that we're still recruiting in 2025 the way we recruited in 1975.
That's right.
And we think that there's going to be this automatic, endless flow of applicants. In the early 80s in Dayton, Ohio, they'd announce a test. There was no recruiting. You just announce a test. 1,200 people would sign up. Maybe 600 would show up, and maybe 400 actually pass the written test. And that's kind of how we're still doing things. Is it's if we build it, they will come mentality, and that's not the case. And we're just blindly accepting the minimum.
Yes.
And if you that would be like, you want to field an elite track and field team. Are you going to go out and go, hey, here's our minimum qualification? You got to be able to at least do a 10-minute mile.
Yeah, that's right.
No, you're going to recruit the cream of the crop, and you're not going to waste any time, and you're going to go where the cream of the crop is already at, encouraging them.
Yep.
Which kind of leads me to tell us more about Run Well, because I think to some degree this philosophy is and tell us about, was it Jon?
Yeah, and I want to give, anytime I tell this story, I give sole credit to Jon Matthews. So Sergeant Jon Matthews is actually, he currently serves as our recruiting sergeant here in the PD, which is a perfect fit for his spirit. So Jon was a cop for about 10 or 12 years here. He did everything he wanted to do. He got on SWAT. He was on SWAT with me for a bit. He was on our fugitive task force. Just a up and coming rising cop, was going to be like a true boss here for sure. And around 2019, he felt a change in path, and he left the agency, not because he didn't like the job, but he felt called differently. And he served as a youth minister at a large church here in town. 2020 hit. Chaos, pandemic, riots, madness, bedlam. And unlike every other normal person in the world, Jon said, there's nowhere I would rather be than on the front lines of caring for my city as a cop again. I can't not do this. And he reapplied. He applied in 2020. You understand? He applied to leave, a job at a church, take a pay cut, and come back here to the police department in the middle of that. That's the kind of guy this is. When he came back, though, he said, look, I've gotten this call. I feel like I've gotten this vision for a program to take first responders and pair them with young men. I, like Jon, I've said for years, the greatest problem in the United States at present, in my estimation, that breeds all the other problems is missing dads, period. Fatherlessness, dads who've bailed out, I don't even like calling them dads, but have abandoned their responsibilities. If we could fix that, we could fix almost all the other problems would fix themselves. Jon said, I want to train up the next generation of young men on a small scale. He gathered 4 or 5 of us together. We put a board together. We got a 501c3 nonprofit status. We started printing T-shirts. We reached out to a local school, got access to the high school, and we started. And have just now completed the 4th year of Run Well. Run Well is a year-long program, training, mentoring, training mentally and physically young men, where we take first responders, we take cops into the school every single week. because we're dedicated, because these young men have already had enough guys in their life bail on them. We're not going to do that. We take them in, we say, look, we're with you guys for the year. We'll see you every Tuesday right after school till 6 o'clock. And we pair them up. We'll have 30 to 40 to 50 young men, high school age, paired with our first responders. We work out with them. We work them hard. And then we feed them every week. We feed them Chick-fil-A and have a short teaching session from our curriculum. I actually wrote the Run Well curriculum with a specific topic each week. Let's talk about responsibility. Let's talk about courage. Let's talk about strength. Let's talk about toxic passivity, right? Let's talk about how to handle your finances. Let's talk about things that dads historically have given to their sons, but it's getting missed. And so we train all year, make them stronger. At the end of the year, we take them to a big race as a year-end finale. We take them to typically a 10K mud run, a Spartan race, or something like that. And most of these young men that have never done anything near that hard will smash that day. And we start the year off every year with the same idea. We tell them, look, the world needs what you have. Nobody's telling you that. Nobody's telling you that you at 14 years of age are necessary to the world. You are a future father. You're a future husband. You're a future leader. You're not just some, acne-faced kid like these teachers and, society will denigrate you. You're necessary. You're needed. We have a vision for your life. And we tell the young men, look, life's hard. Life's not fair, right? Let's get that out of the way right now. We tell them, look, we don't know everything about manhood, but we know a lot more than you do. And so we can pair with you. We can share our failures. We can share our successes, and we'll be there. And man, we give them, all year. This costs the kids nothing. We have private donors that support the mission. So we give them swag all year. We're always giving them new Run Well t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts. One day every year we take all 40 or 50 kids to the running store, have them sized for proper running shoes. We buy them all brand new shoes. We feed them, like I said, Chick-fil-A every week, and it costs them $0. So there's no cost of entry. And a lot of the things we're telling them is countercultural. First of all, there's a distinguished difference between men and women, like big ideas like that. And you are necessary and your strength is needed. And we've seen flourishing, man. It's really cool. There's nothing, this ain't never going to make CNN. This is not going to be on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. One of our last chiefs came out and supported a lot of our program. And he told our mayor, he said, this is the most impactful thing going on in Greensboro that nobody knows about, which is pretty neat. So it's been cool, man. It's probably one of the neater things I've ever been involved in.
Okay. Don't take this the wrong way. Why aren't you on CNN or, what that's the type of, and I'm going to follow it up with the question, but I'm shocked. I hadn't heard of it until, we got to talking a couple weeks ago. That's something we do need more of. Yes. And here's my question to you: how I can see the impact it's having on the kids.
Yeah.
What is it, the impact on the officers that are being involved?
Yeah. So, you, Pat, you've told me you've been an instructor, you've been a teacher. I teach, firearms and different things. Anytime you have to teach or present or hold yourself up as an example, like we're going this way, you're going to become more excellent in that, in whatever that discipline is. There is something I've told the guys after the second year. I told the mentors, we got together for an end of year debrief, and everybody said the same thing. This program, the kids can, they're benefiting, but man, I love rubbing elbows with these guys every week. Like when, I've always said, who you choose to surround yourself with, your small circle of influence is one of the most important decisions you're going to make. So make it very wisely, be very discerning about that. But yeah, me, every Tuesday I get to leave whatever's going on at work, whether it's madness or chaos, and I get to rub elbows for 90 minutes with the best cops that are here while they are working to inspire the next generation. I'm only going to benefit from that. Right. I mean, is that a better use of time for me than, scrolling the phone? Yes. Then taking a nap? Definitely. Right. And my family gets to pay off from that. I get home and I'm like, guys, this is great. I'm fired up. I mean, this is neat. What I just saw, this is really cool. And the stories you hear from these young men that are a lot of times bearing up under weights that I could not have imagined at 15 years old. but yet they're persevering. And then we're giving them some backup. We're giving them a vision for their life. And we're saying, we're here with you. Like we're right here with you. At the end of the school year, man, we blow it out for our seniors. Last year, we took all of our seniors to the suit store, and we bought them all, got them all sized for proper suits. We bought them all suits and sent them off to college and the military and jobs. We try to set them up for success and give them what at least we can with 90 minutes a week times 26 weeks for a school year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I thought the PAL program used to be pretty, yeah. I don't know what's happened to it, over the years since I retired, but it sounds like you guys are PAL program on steroids, which I want to encourage you to scale this and get it shouldn't be the best kept secret in Greensboro or even in the nation, is because there are thousands and thousands. I mean, there's there used to be 900,000 cops in the United States. I don't think it's that high anymore, but there's still tens of thousands of cops out there that are like-minded, with your passion, with your vision, with your faith and your compassion. It's one thing. This is one of the hardest lessons I had to learn. It is one thing to be able to recognize someone else's suffering, which is, and that's empathy, and I get that, and you can get drawn into that. Right. But the harder thing is compassion, because the root word of compassion is passion, and passion means suffering.
That's right.
And that the compassion is that you see it and you want to do something about it, and without being sucked into it. That's right. And so that's what you guys have, in that there's tens of thousands of cops out there that have the same compassion you have, and there's even more people that aren't cops that would want to support that.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, man. I'll need that later. I appreciate it. But it's interesting. It's the difference is execution always. And most people have good ideas, but the difference is always execution. And you have Jon Matthews, the guys like Bonatti and Early and Rod Hill and Ian Trent, these guys that are in the program. Everybody, it's very easy. It's like a modern day spectator sport to say, oh, woe is the world, and it's all a disaster, and it's going in the ditch. Man, somebody needs to do something. The big difference is that line jumping across and saying, how about I'm going to do something? I'm going to do that. I've got 1 million. Jon Matthews has 4 kids. Bonatti's got 2 kids. Early's got kids all over. We have other things we could certainly be doing. They could be doing on a Tuesday afternoon, but they're going to say for a year, the whole school year, I'm going to go and I'm going to try to make something different. Yeah. And it's fun to watch, man. It's again, I have wasted time doing far worse things than
90 minutes with kids. I wrote an article the other day that I don't believe in superheroes.
Yes.
And actually, I did a podcast on it after I wrote the article, and I thought, man, this would be a good podcast. Yep. But I do believe in saints. And saints are just ordinary people doing everyday ordinary things with extraordinary results.
That's good.
And Saint Teresa, and literally some of them are, canonized as formally as saints, like Mother Teresa of Calcutta.
Yes.
That woman was, without a doubt, in my lifetime, the greatest warrior servant leader I've ever had the honor to, I've never met her, but the honor to see her life in my lifetime. That little itty bitty thing stood up in front of the UN and very graciously and humbly handed them their ass about the condition of humans, and you people are doing nothing about it. But then she'd go right back and on the streets of Calcutta and hold somebody that's dying, and and putting the wants and needs of others before her own. She wasn't born into poverty, and she was a warrior that she would stand up, show up, and defend what she believes, and that was her faith and the sanctity of human life. And then and she was a leader. She's a person of influence and impact.
Yep.
But she would do it through ordinary, everyday
Yes.
things with extraordinary results. And I think that's what you guys are. You'd be saints in my book. That,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and you should be, I don't want to say recognized. I mean, it needs to be shared with people, because there's going to be that cop in whatever, middle of nowhere, whatever, or in New York City or Chicago, that's going to go, man, that's what I've been wanting to do that. I have that same passion, but I don't know how.
Yeah.
And so I'm telling you, we're going to get this out there.
I appreciate it. And as always, the most impactful ideas are always the simple ideas. I mean, Jon got back to work. I think we met in June. He got us together. We had a 501c3 by August. We started the school year with September and started printing shirts. I mean, but that's what happens when you get cops together. Like, we're going to get it done. It's going to happen. But it's the simplest ideas. It's like, let's go in there and just hang out with them. I remember we met with the principal because we thought, look, this is some countercultural stuff we want to bring into the school. We met with the principal. We said, look, this is what we want to do. We want to bring cops into the school. We want to make your young men better men. We want to make them into the type of men that will treat your young women properly in your school. Everything's going to benefit. It costs zero. And he said, okay, so you just want to come. It's free. It doesn't cost me anything. It's going to make my whole school better. He's like, do whatever you want. You can have the whole school. And it was the easiest pitch ever. And I like to say he has been, he was a philosopher in that he said, yep. He said, go for it. And it's been a good thing for the city, I think.
That's awesome. Hey, how can people contact you? Contact Runwell or Jon or whatever. I should have been prepared for this, man. Again, I'm on LinkedIn. That's how you and I got connected.
Yeah. I'm very easy to find there as Captain Kory Flowers. I've got probably that's the easiest way. We don't have a website. We have Instagram and Facebook. And we have a pretty decent following, and we make videos of our workouts every single week and post them to Instagram. We do sound clips of our teachings alongside these young men doing pull-ups and getting sweaty and muddy and running and carrying bricks across town. And so if you want to track the program, it's very easy. Under in Instagram and Facebook, it's Runwell GSO. So Runwell, one word, space GSO for Runwell Greensboro. And it's neat, man. You want to see some young men that are not like most American young men, like getting after it, sweating, working hard, taking responsibility. That's what you'll see.
Awesome. Yeah. If you don't have a Substack, get a Substack. It's a great outlet for writing and sharing your stories with like-minded people. Mm-hmm. So highly recommend that. Sure. Well, Kory, man. Oh, and when you say Kory Flowers, it's Kory with a K.
Very good. Yeah.
Not a C. So people are going to go, oh, I Google. Yeah, I did Kory COR. No, it's with the K.
That's right.
Right. And so Kory Flowers, LinkedIn. Get a Substack page as well.
Very good.
So. It's great having you today, and man, I'm going to have you come back on, and maybe get one of your kids once they're over 18 or graduated, and have them come on and let's do a podcast of sharing those Paul Harvey success stories, the rest of the story that we never, very few people know this. The greatest boxer in the history of the world was who?
I don't know. I mean,
Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess that, but you tell me I'm wrong, right?
No, it's Muhammad Ali. You know how he got introduced to boxing?
I don't.
A street cop in Louisville, Kentucky.
Is that a real story?
Yeah, introduced him as a 9-year-old to PAL boxing.
No kidding.
Billy Joel's a PAL kid.
How about that?
But we don't know unless they become famous.
Yes.
You don't hear the rest of the story.
That's wild.
And so I think one of our callings for me, particularly in the podcasting world, is to tell the rest of those stories.
Yeah. I've said that for years too. I mean, honestly, Pat, they make all of the movies and TV shows about who? Cops and doctors. That's it. They're not making movies about linoleum salesmen and real estate agents. But we don't, I won't use the word exploit, but we don't push our stories out as well as we could. Like today in my city, there's a 22-year-old cop out here doing something magical, heroic, miraculous right now. But we don't tell that story. Like you mentioned it earlier, I just think that's a real wasted opportunity for sure.
I meant to tell the actual story, and it did make the news in Dayton, Ohio, because the police chief, when he got a phone call about it, made a point of, we're going to celebrate this. But there was an officer, I had taught him in his academy, and so he wasn't a young guy. I mean, he's probably got 20 years on the job. And he catches a call, a 9 or 10-year-old's lawnmower got stolen. And the kid was using it to earn money. I mean, living in the ghetto areas and whatnot, and he's trying to do his part to help the family and that kind of stuff. So the officer catches the call for the theft, and everybody gonna go, it's a paper call. I'm surprised they didn't do it on the phone, and whatnot. And the officer took the paper and left. Came back about 45 minutes later, and out of his own pocket, he had gone to Lowe's or Home Depot. He went to one of the stores and bought a $400 lawnmower and gave it to this kid, and then basically walked away. Beautiful. Well, Mama calls the chief to tell that story. So and to thank. Because the Mama didn't know what the officer's name was even.
Wow.
And
that's great.
And those are the kinds of stories. And I don't, like you said, I don't mean exploit them, but that we need to share with the community.
Sure.
So the community has trust and faith in us.
That's right.
Because we're doing that.
That's right.
1,000 times more a day than being in an officer-involved shooting.
Yeah, that's right. And, that's necessary now, right? all of the marketing folks say, capture the narrative and get your voice out there. But it's true. And, I've done this particularly since the, 2020s or so. I worked street crimes for years, and I would stop, say young black males who in the 2020s were, the whole story online was like, the cops are just going to, just want to wipe out all the young black males and it's a war. And it was such nonsense. But I had so many vehicle stop encounters late at night, suspicious stuff, stop young guys, young black guys, and they would be obviously like anxious. And you could tell it because they had digested and taken social media as truth. And we would have a great conversation. And I'd say, I got it, pal. You were just, texting and driving. No big deal. I figured you were drunk. Look, have a good day. And they would say, man, this is way better than I thought. I said, look, pal, this is real. This is real. This is real. I said, and I probably told 50 young guys this. I said, look, just do me a favor. Just go tell this story. This is a boring story, but it's this truth. This is real where, you get stopped for a valid reason. You're a reasonable person and I act reasonably and we leave and everybody wins. Just tell this story. Will you do that? Yeah. Cause we got to get our stories out. That's important.
Yep. Well, I'm going to make it a mission. And when we get offline, we're going to talk about who can we bring on, one of your graduates, so to speak.
And we got some monsters, man. We got some kids out there killing it. So they'll be, that's fun. That's exciting.
Well, I want to share that story then. All right. Well, hey, Kory, thanks for joining us today. To our listeners, I hope you're inspired and encouraged to live a life with a warrior servant leader mindset. And please share this episode with somebody needs to hear it today. And follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Like Kory, I'm on LinkedIn. Reach out to me. It's real simple, at Pat Welsh JD. I'm Substack, Pat Welsh JD. YouTube, guess what? Same thing. So be safe, be a warrior, be a servant, be a leader, and tune in next week for another episode of the Warrior Servant Leader Podcast. Love y'all and see you next week.